Luc Mullinder joining us. Do you want to start with the impersonation, Luke, and why he won't do it?
You know, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to do the Donald Trump impersonation, right? Like, shooters shoot, man. You know, like shooters shoot. Let's just get this out of the way, man. I think that's something that I want to see.
Yeah.
I think that's something that
Curtis is young. He's part of the content generation. They're all content creators. Like, it doesn't matter what it says on your resume. I'm a content creator. Like, you guys all probably were clutching your pearls because TikTok was down yesterday for 7 hours, and then it came back like it was a world travesty. So come on, Curtis, do it.
Yeah, we got to get Curtis to do that at some point, man.
He's not. He's not.
I mean, especially come on, it's the inauguration day. Why would if there's any day to do it? It's today.
He regrets coming back to work after a month off immediately today. Get me out of here. Hey, Kay, what do you think when you wake up on this Martin Luther King Day down in the States? You got the inauguration going on, and then the Riders come out with a little bit of a bomb, and Andrew Harris joining the coaching staff, Luke.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I mean, it automatically kind of made me think, hey, you know, I hope Anthony Vitale is okay, right? Because with Andrew Harris coming in as the running back coach, you know, you understanding that Anthony Vitale, A, was a pretty good coach, but also B, he was in that position. You just hope that, you know, the personal reasons in which he can't, you know, do the role anymore aren't like health related, right, or family related. So in a bad way. So but again, you know, this league is always looking for young coaches. I have always said that we need to invest a little bit more into those young coaches that are coming in. Andrew Harris is a guy that has a great relationship with AJ Ouellette, right? He's definitely he's not far removed from the game either. So he's going to continue. He's going to be able to speak that language that I think that you need to be able to speak when it comes to this generation of athlete. So, again, it adds more experience. It's a been there, done that guy. And he's a guy that also, if you think about it, when it comes to being an offensive weapon, he wasn't just a runner, right? He was a guy that went out and got involved in the passing game. So, you know, running backs who always want more touches, is this an advocate now in the locker room for them to get a little bit more involved in Mark Muller's scheme?
Luke, one of the things that I said, coming as from a fan's point of view, that I will be okay with this decision. I just need a little time, because for the longest time, Andrew Harris was an enemy and a bit of a rider killer. Right. And I think he needs to apologize for that Labor Day game where he swung his helmet and did get thrown out. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. And I think Rider Nation will come around, but keep him like, and this, it's all jealousy, because Harris could run, could catch. He would always fall forward for that extra half yard and get a first down. This is more speaking from jealousy. I'm happy he's part of our staff and that he's not with the Bombers, because they don't have an OC yet. Could be there. Right. So if he's going anywhere, might as well have him here. Barney thinks he's going to play by time the middle of the season rolls around. Barney thinks they're going to ask him to play.
No, somebody is going to say we should put in Harris. I'm not saying he's going to. I give it under 65 days.
If one of our running backs fumbles during practice at training camp, the first thing on the message boards you're going to say is Andrew Harris needs to be the starting running back here in Saskatchewan. I totally agree with you. Yeah. But I mean, on Andrew, listen, I'm personally, a long time ago, when Andrew Harris was going through his suspension, I was one of those guys who pointed a number of things out, and it was very direct. But I'll tell you what, guys, I mean, that was a long time ago, but you know what? We look into the world right now, and if Mark Zuckerberg can all of a sudden do a complete 180 on fact-checking, on DEI policy on Facebook, then why can't Rider Nation do a complete 180 on their feelings around Andrew Harris? This is a guy who's going to come in and wish the best success on the guys he gets to coach, and the guys he gets to coach are in the green and white. So hopefully we get a positive outcome and more wins because of it.
Yeah, we heard Dave Thomas talk to him earlier. We'll run that audio again after about probably bottom of the hour. We'll run it again. He's got the relationship. Then Maz and I were talking, Luke, and the league is such a 2 quarterback league now. Like, you got to have a guy the backup or number 2 that can play. It's a 2 or 3 running back league now, isn't it?
Well, I think we naturally gravitate towards scheme, and these days scheme. You're right. You are seeing the teams that are going to like that 1-2 punch, like the quarterbacks, right? I think that, could we have utilized a 1-2 punch a little bit better this year at our running back stable? Probably. However, there was also a ton of injuries, right? So I think that that's one of the nice things that Muller here is going to get to look at, especially in his second year as offensive coordinator. Okay, because you always want to build, right? Like, hey, we did this, and this was positive. Now in 2025, here's where we want to get to, and in order to bump that up, things like utilizing the running game a little bit more effectively is not going to be on the menu, or passing the football to the running backs is not going to be on your menu. But you're right, Shinks. I mean, you look at Detroit, even though they fizzled out this weekend, right? Their success was based on a 2 running back system. You look at the successful and sustainable teams in the NFL, they were always like the Steelers, they're a run-based team. Calgary in its heyday, right? Joffrey Reynolds, John Cornish, those were run-based teams throughout their success. When the Montreal Alouettes won those 2 back-to-back Grey Cups in 9 and 10 against us, unfortunately, one of the things that they featured was fantastic running backs, and more importantly, an interoperable system in which the fullback was a pass catcher too, right? And then you look at Winnipeg's success most recently, and that is synonymous with Brady Oliveira and the guy we just talked about, Andrew Harris, and being a run threat. So you're going to have to be able to pound the rock here in 2025 in the Canadian Football League. It's definitive in the other league in which we watch. So we may as well figure it out here too. Just because you get one less possession doesn't mean that you take the onus off the running back position. And the nice part is, I think the success of the running backs in the Canadian Football League this past season, I think that it sort of goes to promote, hey, let's continually use these guys. And if you think about, the Grey Cup, I mean, one of the reasons why I would give you that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers failed in their Grey Cup attempt this year was the fact that they went away from Brady Oliveira. Mm-hmm. So again, there's all sorts of evidence that we can point to in reasoning that we can get the running backs involved. So why not have a 1-2 punch behind such an important, critical piece to the offensive game plan?
One of the things that Andrew Harris said to Dave earlier is that he had to change the way that he prepared for football. So he said later in life, and this is what he's going to try and pass on to AJ Ouellette, is he stopped working out and he started doing yoga. Because Barney and I were talking. Ouellette played 8 games last year. I don't necessarily know in year 2 of the AJ Ouellette experience in Rider Nation that 8 games are going to cut it. Listen, man, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You're a bruiser. We get it. But an 18-game season with playoffs, we need you long-term. We need some health and longevity. Would you be in favor of load management just to try and keep him as healthy and upright as possible?
I think the way to load management is exactly what we just talked about in terms of the offensive game plan, right? It's not taking reps off guys. I think it's just using them a little bit more effectively, right? And what are guys good at? Are there guys that are better in space than between the tackles, right? And figuring out how that impacts your playbook, whether it's a first and 5 situation, possession and 10. 2nd and 5 versus 2nd and 7+, right? Like, I don't think load management involves not playing guys. I think load management just means offensively scheming a more efficient attack plan.
Yeah, right? Luke, it's the same as high school football. You've seen it. You've coached football. It's to flag football, where it's like, we do this, we do this, we do it. The team knows you're going to do that. Now you go over here and do this. And if the Riders can do that, if they can go run heavy, then the next week, all of a sudden, they're running a ton of screens and dink and duck. Then the next week, they're going over the top. It's like, what are we getting from these guys?
Well, the most important thing for the Saskatchewan Roughriders is going to be, hopefully they get a lot more luck on the offensive lineman front, right? I think that's that in anywhere. You could, again, the Riders can go and sign Derrick Henry tomorrow, right? And if we don't have an offensive line in front of him, Derrick Henry is not going to be as effective as Derrick Henry could be. Again, all of the compartments need to be working. The offensive line is critical to the running back production, and running back production is critical to offensive line production, right? So it all works in the same way. Again, I do, is AJ going to benefit from yoga only? No, I don't think he's going to benefit from only doing yoga. But I do think that what Andrew Harris is talking about is just sort of balancing out that sort of balancing out the game plan in order to preserve your body, right? It's like getting in the ice tub. One of the reasons that Gene Mikowski, I think, was so, had the longevity that he had. I remember even as a young player watching Gene, the amount of attention that Gino was willing to pay when it came to working out, but more importantly, getting into the ice tub at every possible moment. Those are things that extend careers. So I think that Andrew Harris can come in, he can talk to AJ Ouellette, they can develop a game plan that may involve a little bit of things that AJ's not used to doing, right? Like, hey, AJ, you don't have to deadlift 790,000 pounds. Let's do a couple stretches to make your hips work better.
It's like when Tiger Woods was like getting injured all the time, and they were like, yeah, because he goes for jog. He jogs for like 10 miles a day in army boots. It's like, yeah,
I believe the terminology there is yogging. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good inside joke. Okay, you can pull an Anchorman reference out of nowhere. That is awesome. Speaking of CFL running back news, Dedrick Mills re-signs with the Stamps, and he's been their leading rusher for the past 2 years. And though I like Dedrick Mills, much like Kadeem Carey, they run hard, but they have the ability to be that slash guy as well. And like I said, everybody's pushing their chips in. And it's early, but everybody's going for it. And it's kind of fun that in Blue Monday in January that you're kind of getting jazzed for the CFL season, especially now that the schedule's out. I'm so excited. Only one of those lame Thursday night games and all the rest are Fridays and Saturdays and the odd Sunday. Good job.
I was so annoyed last year at the schedule because you're right, Maz. I mean, it seemed like every game was a Thursday game. And if we're transitioning to the schedule here, there's a couple things to really like about it. I think that, especially on the home game side, 4 games at 5 p.m. and 1 game at 1 p.m. Guys, there's no better time to get your family involved than 2025. Little kids, ain't nobody bringing a little kid to an 8:30 start time game, right? But 5 o'clock, we can do that. 1 p.m., we can do that. That's going to be something that facilitates and stewards the next.
Are you saying you can judge those parents?
What?
People rolling in at 9 o'clock with their kids.
Well, I'm just saying,
nice.
8:30. I know where my 6-year-old son is at 8:30. And it's not football game mode cheering for Rider Nation. It's ready for bed mode. 5 o'clock that's doable. That's something where, you can involve the family, get everybody meals and stuff, and stay for the entire game and not have to worry about your son being an absolute spaz the next morning because he stayed up till 1 p.m. Right? So that's good. I think that obviously the 6 day, I think that the fact that there's no sort of turnaround shorter than 6 days for the Saskatchewan Roughrider next week. It's like Craig Reynolds had some bonus money and got to sit in there with the schedulers and be like, hey, I got a hundo that says that we need some more extra. Because even the bye weeks, guys, the bye weeks are scheduled out perfectly. They're literally incrementally set where you can get the most rest. There's no 12-game drive at the end of the year where the Riders got and everybody else getting a bye. So that's good. But, and the other thing too, the only thing I would actually have against the schedule, and this actually isn't sort of, schedule related per se, the final third of the year, the last 6 games, unfortunately for the Riders, only features 3 Western opponents, right? You've got Montreal, TO, and Ottawa in that final third of the year. And in a phase of the season where A, you have to be playing your best football, but more importantly, B, where things like point differential come in, you have the ability to seed yourself higher or lower. You have the ability to potentially eliminate teams. I would have loved to see that final third feature 5 Western opponents or 4, but 3 50-50. That's probably the only gripe I have against the schedule. But again, for me, it's the Riders have been really set up by the league. It's like they were in good with last year's commissioner because, again, it doesn't get much better.
Maybe he owed Reynolds a favor. You never know. That's how favors make the world go round, Luke. You know that.
Hey, listen, I
calling in that favor now.
I do it all the time.
I did today to you to come on instead of because Darian bailed.
Yeah.
I used
exactly.
my favorite.
Hey, you know what? It's a defensive lineman's dream in practice to like get a real rep as the starting quarterback, like, and not just a handoff rep, like get in there and throw during blitz. So I'm all for this opportunity.
I like this
Nice.
CFL Stats Geek on Insta that you follow, Colson. He had the Roughriders will have the most R&R throughout the season this year. That's nice to see. 128 rest days, followed by Montreal at 125. Like that's got to pay dividends. It's got to, and then the least 118 Winnipeg.
And part of that's because we play the opening game and we play the last game.
Yeah.
So of the season too. So there's a little bit of a stretch there, and I think Winnipeg is on the bottom ends of those weeks. But even travel-wise,
I think
going
I
from
sent
city
you
to
that
city, we're
travel thing
second
the other
lowest.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent you that the other day. We have the second least amount of kilometers traveled out of any team in the league, which is great because those touchdown Atlantic, those cross Canada, that killed us. That I don't care. That killed our season. When you're making an extra long roadie and it's on a short week and on the road. So when you see that, to be like, wow, we travel, and it kind of makes sense almost being in the center of the country that we're kind of, you win some, you lose some. But is it BC that Colson, can you throw that? Is BC's got it the worst, right?
Yeah, BC's
I don't
got
feel
the worst.
bad for anything that happens in BC, yeah. How many kilometers?
7,000 kilometers farther than Ottawa. They've got 34 and a half.
Yeah, that's what BC gets for living on a fault line on the West Coast. Too bad. Hey,
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. But again, bye weeks on week 5, week 10, and week 16, guys. I mean, one of the things that this absolutely does for Coach Mace is removes any excuse with his players about rest, because, hey, guys, the schedule favors us. We got to go and execute.
What will they do here, Luke? I don't know if you know, but if anybody, it would be you. On Saturday, June 14th at 5 o'clock, they play Hamilton in the Hammer. And then they come Friday, they play Toronto. So that would mean Sunday. Will they stay there or will they come back?
Well, they've done it. Teams have done that in the past where they get that sort of the close turnaround in the same geography. I would assume that decision is going to be made mostly on the budget. Right. I think that, logistically and in terms of rest and just convenience, the decision would be to stay in Ontario. But again, we don't know what the budgets look like. Right. So I would assume that flying all the way back and then back is going to be just as expensive. But who knows?
Expedia points.
Yeah.
We use those.
Right.
Stay in Burlington.
Got a lot of points on that IHG membership, boys. And for the players. So that never happened when I was playing, where we would stay a week. But for the players, I know what every one of them's thinking. Per diem. Oh, man, that extra per diem is the week worth of per diem is going to be absolutely incredible. And JL and those guys know that, right? That per diem. Awesome.
Back in your day, Luke, on the road, what was per diem? How much would you get in your playing days?
I think back in those days, it was like $120, so 120 maybe per day. And again, some guys would come out on like actually being in debt with that per diem. And some guys, like for instance, Marcus Adams, one of my old teammates, he would get his per diem for every 2 days. And I swear he would return to Saskatchewan with money. That's how cheap this guy was. Like he would like buy one sub sandwich, cut it up into quarters and eat one quarter while we were there. And he would come back with, and then there'd be guys like me who would just completely blown all his per diem on return.
Eat 3/4 of it, then put a little piece of hair in it and take it back. Be like, hey, I need a new one.
Yeah.
Save that for tomorrow.
Bring the receipt back to the counter and be like, hey, I haven't gotten my sandwich yet. Is it going to be made soon?
Oh, Luke. So okay, quickly, what NFL this weekend? Any in those games? Anything catch you off guard?
Oh man! First of all, I don't know anything about football anymore, guys. I had the Ravens winning the Super Bowl, right? I had the Broncos potentially upsetting the Bills, and just nothing my way. I'll tell you, this weekend was was so expensive when it comes to my bank account. I don't even know how to bet anymore, guys. So, but what I am looking forward to, I am looking forward to. I think that, you know, my buddy sort of gave me this heads up. He said that a Philadelphia and Buffalo Super Bowl would help the Bills fulfill their destiny in losing to every NFC East team in a Super Bowl. So that's cool. But I think the winner of that Bills-Chiefs game is going to be the Super Bowl champion. And the way the Buffalo Bills played, like, listen, it was great that they won last night. Like, it's cool that they won. But the Ravens turned the ball over 3 times, okay? And the Bills weren't able to pass anything. I just don't see, like, if you have a 3-turnover game, you should be killing the other team, not having that team miss a 2-point conversion to tie the game at the end of the game, right? Like, so I don't see Kansas City coming out and making near the same amount of mistakes as the Ravens did against the Bills, and I think they're in trouble, man. I do like the chances of Kansas City three-peating.
Yeah, 126 yards passing, I think, is what Josh Allen had. Yeah, you're not going to beat Kansas City that way. It's so funny. Everybody's social media feed, because of the presidential inauguration, it seems to be 1,000% politics, except on Saturday, once the Chiefs game started, because every Kansas City Patrick Mahomes referee meme, video, funny anything was just dominating. But here's the thing. And for everybody that hates the Chiefs, every story needs a bad guy. Star Wars had Darth Vader.
Totally.
They're Darth Vader.
Totally.
Okay, so Chris Jones and the Kansas City Chiefs defense wrecked Houston. What did they have, 8 or 9 sacks? And they had 14 or 15 hits on the quarterback?
Completely obliterated them.
It wasn't all Patrick Mahomes and the cheap calls. Although when Troy Aikman under his breath is complaining and Joe Buck is agreeing with him on TV, you probably know it's getting to a point of maybe you're getting a little too many.
Well, listen, you know what? Greatness comes at a cost, right? The Patriots, when the Patriots were winning Super Bowls, it was, they're cheaters, Deflategate, blah, blah, blah. You know, even when my Cowboys were winning Super Bowls, everybody was a cokehead. They argued too much, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Greatness comes at a cost. And one of those costs is that everybody and their mother is going to try to find a way to bring you down. That's why the sacrifices that you make to get to the top of the mountain mean so much. Because literally once you're there, there's nowhere to go but down. And every single person, every single supporter of any other team other than the Kansas City Chiefs, they are going to be relentless, especially in the social media, at trying to bring you back down to earth. Greatness comes at a cost.
I cannot believe how good, how confident, how poised Jaden Daniels is as a rookie quarterback. Like, they are blitzing him all over the place, and he was just cool as a cucumber, as they say, dumping it out.
Yeah, you know, as somebody who's like really sort of into studying the developments in AI, specifically around sort of where I am right now in the humanitarian workspace, it's a really interesting sort of side note that one of the things that Jaden Daniels does is he actually does a lot of AI virtual training. And one of the programs that he's involved in is a program that speeds up the timing of a game 1.75 versus the pace that the game actually goes for him. So he forces himself to go through a game that moves faster than any other game we'll ever met. So when he gets into those situations, maybe the game slows down for him. It was a really interesting sort of side note, and one of the ways that, or one of the reasons why Jaden Daniels might be having the success that he's having.
Huh.
I know that Darian's on the 1-game injured list, and we're going to try and get him on this week. But it was back around Thanksgiving on one of his Monday Double Talk segments where he had said, I really like Washington and this Jaden Daniels. He's got it. He just had, and Darian, like, he laid out as to why, and maybe Darian is Nostradamus, but it has played out completely. Like, you just knew it was 4th and 2, and you're like, he's going to get a first down. He's going to run. Right. He's going to do it. Like, he is. And the other thing, too, is I don't think he knows any different. Like, he's playing with house money. There's no backdrop here. He doesn't have the 19-year hangover that Washington and how awful they've been.
No.
I don't mind if Buffalo wins their first Super Bowl. I don't mind if Philly wins, although...
No. I totally disagree. If anybody but Philly. Anybody but Philly. Anybody but Philly.
But if Washington ends up winning, I'm okay with that because of the Jaden Daniels factor and just because of in less than a year. And Dan Quinn, speaking of your Cowboys, flew so far under the radar out of what a good coach he is. And the Cowboys let him walk along with Kellen Moore because Jerry Jones and that circus that they run, like you've got, and keep in mind, Kellen Moore is young, but Dan Quinn's been a good coach for a long time. And to see what he's done in less than a year, and he was a Cowboy, you could have kept him. Just paid him head coach money to be a DC. Well,
yeah. Oh, totally.
But Jerry was great in Landman.
You know what you just did? You know, last week we had a get together here at the house, and this guy, he was from Alberta, and he meant it in the nicest way, but he was literally sitting there being like, "Oh man, I can't believe it. You know, if you guys don't make that mistake in 2009, you're a 2-time Grey Cup champion. Man, I can't imagine how that would feel. I can't." And now you're doing the same thing, reminding us all that we lost a really, really good coach.
But I don't think as long as Jerry World's in charge, it wouldn't matter. There could have been 5 coaches there. He would have lost them all.
So here's the thing. Jerry Jones, for the longest time, and this is the acceptance you have to understand as a Cowboys fan and that you have to make personally. It's a sacrifice, actually. If you're going to be a Cowboys fan, you just have to understand that Jerry Jones is interested in winning the clicks versus Super Bowls. He wants all eyes on his team, and he knows that it doesn't need to be Super Bowls to do that, right? Mm-hmm. He is a guy that has gotten the Cowboys to one of the highest valuations of a professional North American team, right? And I think it's $8 to $9 billion. And he's done that without winning Super Bowls. And because he's realized this, he understands that he's actually better off creating a WWE-like atmosphere around the Cowboys than he is actually trying to hire and win Super Bowls, which is the exact reason why Deion Sanders is actually being considered for the head coaching spot, right? Is because that is the entertainment value that Jerry Jones is looking for. He is not interested in creating Super Bowls. He's won those, and it shows. And that's you know what? I understand it as a Cowboys fan. Whatever. Hopefully one day it'll change, but I'm still going to be the idiot who buys the gear and cheers them on.
Cowboys are actually worth $10 billion now. First team to pass that mark.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And
so to my point exactly.
He's a marketing genius. Okay, quickly, we got about 30 seconds here. Do you know anything, like, should I be taking Notre Dame tonight to cover plus 8.5 against Ohio State?
No, absolutely not. Ohio State should walk through that game. Yeah, Ohio State's, man, up front. Again, you guys, championships are won and lost in the trenches, man. And Ohio State, their offensive line and defensive line, they shouldn't have a problem there against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's close, but, man, Ohio State, they're on another level. The best thing that ever happened to Ohio State this year was losing to Michigan.
Losing to Michigan, yeah. And getting just trounced.
Best thing that happened to them.
Baffling that happened. Luke, I owe you one. Now you come at me. I owe you. You got all heard one,
that, folks.
You got one on me. Thanks so much, buddy.
All right, boys.
See ya.